Jupiter again, moving degrees, this time into Aries 7, moving very, very quickly. Man, successfully expressing himself in two realms at once. Living both sides of each situation. In contrast to our single-pointedness and willingness to fit in, is our ability and capacity to hold alive and vibrant two polarities of life, each of which brings joy, and taken together explain the complexity of our human experience and our relationship to such dualities as spiritual, material, self-community, and magical, religious. So this is awakening, a waking up to possibilities. The difference between 1 and 2 is huge. There is nothing greater than the difference between 0 and 1. Of course, non-existence becomes existence, fundamental within Aries. But here we have another understanding, certainly spoken of in Aries 4, about the other. And here we have in Aries 7, considering the other as an aspect of self. So when I'm focusing on material world things, the other is my spiritual side. When I'm meditation, the other is doing the washing up and doing the garden. So I've got these two sides of me, and they're both great. I like to be doing any of those things, but to find a way to do both of them satisfactorily, that's the challenge in life. And you've got your inner world of thoughts and feelings and trying to work it all out. And then you've got the outer world of what it is that you're trying to work out. Another duality. The duality between I and thou. To some extent, I must take you into account, but actually I want to take myself into account as well. And that reconciliation needs to be attained. All of these dualities that exist in life, we're living in the world of duality. These need to be handled. We have to work out how to be this and that. Now, in the last degree of Aries 6, we were discussing exactly the opposite principle of thrust. I am going to be that and only that. Now here, this is typical of the 5-degree batches of Sabian symbols which make up an expression. The first represents a thesis. In this case, the idea is drive, moving in a certain direction. The second degree within a 5-degree batch represents the antithesis, the opposite principle, usually just a contrast. And here we have, yep, you've got to be single-pointed. Aries 6 tells you that. Aries 7 is saying, however, you've got to be able to be single-pointed in two directions, whether that's spiritual and material, I and thou, and so on, you know. And so you have this contrast where the ability that Aries 7 gives you is the ability to function in contrasting worlds. So, Marc Edmund Jones, Aries 7, a man successfully expressing himself in two realms at once. This is a symbol of a creative division of labour within the self, such as distinguishes humankind from the lower orders of life, and enables any individual to participate in the experience of many interpenetrating realms of reality. Food for thought there, isn't it? The animals just do one thing at a time as far as we know, and yet we can actually hold multiple realities, different relationships, different purposes, different states of existence. And realizing that, coming to terms with that, is an aspect of our realization process. There is capacity here for a complete control of events by shifting from one to another focus of emphasis whenever it proves convenient or expedient. Keyword is proficiency. When positive, the degree is unlimited versatility and a special gift for divorcing the things of issue from whatever lacks immediate pertinence. Multitasking. not exactly that, but just moving from what we're doing to doing something else, and then something else, and then something else, on and on and on. And most particularly, the idea that we are not limited beings. We are unlimited. Because whatever you can do which is expressed as a polarization, one here, one there, then you've got another possibility of extending that, because that one could be this or that. So one here and one there or there, and so on. You know, so two implies many. And here we have the idea of ourselves as multifaceted beings, and understanding that it is not just I who is I and that's that. I can be this, I can be that, I can be the other. And the I changes according to what you're doing, when you're doing it, who you're doing it with. Who you are is to some extent shaped by where you are, what you are, and who you're with. So that indicates immediately that we've got this sense of choice about what to do, how to be, how to feel, how to think. We have a choice about these things. We're not just dumped into this world, might survive, might not. Now we're actually saying, yeah, I am alive, I've got drive in a particular direction, now what else can I do? Doesn't Aries do that very well? What else can I do? It takes things on, doesn't it? And tries new things out. And is competent, usually. It can actually push forward and put energy into something until it becomes competent. So we have Aries representing this wonderful principle that we can do different things. Whereas the animal kingdom is interested in breeding and feeding and nesting. We're interested in all of that, mainly. That's what we do. If you think about going to work as feeding yourself. But we can do more than that. We can draw pictures and play music and have holidays and have social time. We can also develop, and much more importantly than the previous ones, we can also develop a concept of God, knowledge of the distinction that we need to make between who we are in our knowledge of God and who we are if we didn't know God. The existence of God is not something that many people challenge in this work, but who we are in relationship to that changes who we are. So if you don't really enthusiastically motivate yourself to understand and know God, then all right, you're a certain kind of person. You may or may not believe in God. It doesn't make a lot of difference. If you don't do anything about it, then believing in God is just like, well, how can that make a difference? So if you do something about it, like, oh, this God being seems wonderful, it seems to be truthful and loving and creative, that's the kind of person I'd like to get to know. If that was a person, I would be spending a huge amount of time with that person because they're the best there is. But not very many people do. And yet, if you did, you would get the kind of joy from that. And this is what we've learned, that we invest in God and we get back more than we put in on that very sort of material world level of thinking. However, the most important thing is that when we do that, when we go through that process of a commitment to frequent involvement with God on that level of, I don't think of it in terms of worship. I don't think that's a good idea to worship anything. I think of it in terms of relate. If we relate to God as we would a person and spend that amount of thought and that amount of time and that amount of enthusiasm and be, oh yeah, I'm going to see God today, that'd be nice, as you might with a person. If you do that, then you become somebody who's got God in their lives on that level of friendship. That's the best type of relationship you can have with God, is to be friends with God. and the kind of friend that you really are excited to see every day, and that changes who you are. Not only does that change your spiritual self, but it actually changes the rest of you as well. Everything changes. And we see that everything can change, and everything does change, and you can make it change in a given direction. These three things are not generally understood. This is what distinguishes us from them. We're on a path of self-improvement, knowing God. And it's great to know that. It changes who you are.